Hi folks. Recently I traveled from New York City with some friends of mine, Mitt, Michael, and Shun, to Washington D.C. Well, not exactly Washington D.C., to College Park, Maryland, to the National Archives. And we went to the National Archives in search of some film in reference to the Tokyo War Crimes trial, in addition to the transcript of a certain section of that. Well, while there, I happened to ask the archivist, "Gee, do you have any material on the Comfort Woman issue?" And he says, "Sure." And he brought out two folders. Now in the folders, I expected to find that report 49 from the United States Army 1944. Well, in there was a lot of material, but it was all material maybe for the last 10 or 15 years supporting the Comfort Woman Mafia's version of the Comfort Woman issue. Well, in the back was a little folder, not a little folder, sort of like a little pocket in the back, and it came across these three documents. Yay! That was it! Those three documents. In essence, what these documents are, they're interrogation reports of Japanese prisoners of war. And from these interrogations, they were able to piece together, basically, the Japanese operational manual on how to conduct themselves in different theaters of the war. Well, looking at the index, I come across this portion here. Brothels. That's right. Brothels. Is that where you put sex slaves in brothels? Yeah. I mean, after all, we're told they were sex slaves. Well, in here, when you go to the section on brothels, the Army authorities had regulations for the brothels. And one of them was something to the effect they had a price structure. And here's the price structure. And if you notice, in this price structure, they list Japanese women in the brothels, they list Chinese women in the brothels, they list Korean women in the brothels. Wait a minute. So, is that to indicate that Japanese women were dragged out of Japan and forced into sexual slavery? No. So does that mean Japanese women volunteered as prostitutes to serve in these relaxation centers? That's what they call them in these reports, not comfort stations. And they serve, remember, these are Japanese women who volunteered to serve as prostitutes in these brothels, and they served there with sexual slaves from China and Korea. They were chained to the wall. No, they weren't. They were sexual slaves. But the mafia the Comfort Woman Mafia tells us they were. So, but the mere indication that there was Japanese women mixed in with the Koreans and the Chinese is a glowing example. They were not sex slaves. And it continues. And here was a business license, such as a structural form that had to be filled out. But wait a minute. If those comfort stations, sex slave stations, operated by the Army, as they tell us, why would you need a business license? You need a business license because it was an independent proprietor, not part of the military. That's why. Also, the woman had to undergo health exams once a week, and it states further into the document that the proprietor and his wife must also go through those health exams. Wait a minute. The proprietor and his wife? You mean the Japanese soldiers were allowed to bring their wives where they held those sex slaves? No, because the proprietor was a civilian. And it goes on to mention it here in this part that the civilian brothel owner was captured. See? This is the United States Army reporting that a civilian brothel owner for the Japanese was captured. Not rescued. Captured. Then we have another section here where someone in Korea operates a restaurant, wasn't making enough money, so applied to open up a brothel in the occupied areas. Gee, what is that? Does that mean a Korean operating one of these guys? One of these comfort stations with the sex slaves from Japan, China, and Korea? May have been a Korean, but there was no sex slaves. And it goes on to read in one portion that the recruiters paid the families for the use of the women, of the girls in Korea, and in China. And if we all know, if you know your history, that in China and in Korea, going back, women were discarded. When I say discarded, especially in poor families, they were considered more of a burden. So if the family was poor, they sold their daughters into servitude. Not always sexual servitude, could have been maids or field hands, etc. But that the daughters were disposable, as we see here. It goes on further in the report by the United States Army that the Army, meaning the Japanese Army, made no money off of these brothels. Gee, what kind of sex slavery is that you make no money off of them? It wasn't sexual slavery. Now let me go on about this. When I was reading these documents, I said to myself, but wait a minute. It's sitting here in the National Archives. How come we haven't seen these before? I mean, it's not that I had to dig and research, I just asked. But when I put the titles of these documents on the internet, they do come up. Other people prior to us have located these documents and posted them on the internet, but nobody's made anything of it. Why not? We had Americans who've been to the archives searching for material. Why didn't they mention this before? I'm confused. I don't understand this. But Report 49 from 1944 and these three documents based upon interrogations and captured material clearly state there was no such thing as sexual slaves. That the women who served in these houses of relaxation, known as comfort stations, they were prostitutes. See? The truth finally comes out. Again. Alright folks, we'll see you. God bless you. God bless America. God bless the nation you happen to be in. And God bless our good friends and trusted allies in the land of the rising sun, Nihonkoku, Japan. And to those of you who still think they were forced into sexual slavery, as we say in Japan, and that they were baka. See ya! Alright, look what I have to put up with these mugs. Look. See? He's live streaming.
Yeah.
That one's driving.
Yeah. Mid is sleeping.
Mid is sleeping.
No.
Yes. See? That's what I have to put up with.